Hi guys, I'm Peggy from the Witch's Garden, trying to go a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa prefecture, Japan. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, so it's actually been over a week since I was down here last because the typhoons have just been coming and coming and coming. There's a little break in the weather now. It's literally spitting and I have about 10 minutes according to the weather report before the heavens open again. So I'm down to try and start clearing out some of my sunflower. If you watched my last video, you'll know that my sunflower have come to the end of the season. I was planning on leaving them a few days. I've actually left them a week, which I'm happy with because when I came down there were birds on them, there were some bees flying around. So you know, nature's getting their turn at my sunflower before I cut them all back. But I mean, you can see from just looking at them that they're gone. We're past the point. I stopped picking them and so they've all gone to start making seeds. There are a few blooms still around, like this one. But you know, we're definitely coming to the end of the season. You can see as well, this one's starting to actually turn into seeds as well on the main bit. Really big wasp. Really big wasp. So I have to work fast before the rain comes to try and get these sunflower out. Now, if any of you have pulled up your sunflowers before at the end of the season, you'll know that they are really, really hard to do. For them to get this high, they have to go really down low with big long roots. And when you try and pull them up, it's a lot of hard work and you take out a lot of good compost with you. You really mess up the soil. And we don't want to do that. My motto is work smarter, not harder. So I'm not going to pull these out. I am going to cut them back. I'm going to, because I've got the netting in there, it would be an absolute nightmare for me to try and pull them out from the base. Everything's going to get stuck in. So my plan is to cut them down to the first layer of the netting, cut them down to the second layer of the netting, and then cut them back to, so there's just a little stump of their roots sticking out. Now that's still going to be quite hard work. If you look at some of these, I can show you. I mean, you can see how thick some of these canes are. You know, this one's not too bad, but this one next to it, that's a monster. Even cutting through that is going to be really, really hard to do. But it's a lot easier than pulling them up. Okay, so the reason I'm going to not pull them up and just cut them back is not just because I'm lazy. I mean, yeah, it's it is a lot less work for me, but it's also a lot better for the soil and for the bugs in your soil. Now, these allotments change over all the time and you're not guaranteed to get the same plot again, and I feel like people are taking a lot out of the soil and putting very little back in the form of nutrition, and I don't want to continue that cycle. So if I cut these right down to the base, what that's going to do is leave the roots in. The roots are slowly going to die back and that will add nutrition to the soil, but as they're doing that, the little holes in and amongst the sunflower roots, if you see sunflower roots, they're kind of like big fingers at the top and they leave little holes here. And during the winter, that's going to be great for little animals and bugs and stuff to make their home in there. Also, leaving the roots in means that air can get through. It makes little air pockets that go into the soil and aerate the soil, which is better for it. And also it means that water can penetrate deeper into it because the water flows down the root channel as well. And if that water isn't going straight back up into the plant, then it stays in the soil and it just really improves the soil and it helps anything that's living in your soil already as well. So, you know, it's really beneficial for the soil to do this. Like I say, things can live in it, it gets water into the soil, it gets air into the soil, and it means that you're not actually disturbing the soil by pulling it all up anyway, which is what we want. With the stuff that I cut down, I'm then just going to leave it lying on the top. Now, if you were going to do succession planting, you can actually put the seeds right in next to where these roots are and they'll grow up again. But I'm not going to succession plant, we're too late through the season now for me to even think about doing that. So I'm just going to cut them down and then I'm going to lay these sunflowers on the top, and that means that any bugs that were eating them still have a chance to continue eating them, and it'll act as a mulch so that no weeds are coming up at the same time, because I don't want a bed covered in weeds. And it's silly to buy mulch when I've got this stuff anyway. So I'm just going to lay them all out on top and then they'll slowly rot down over the winter, and at the beginning of spring I'll just come with a bag and take them all away, and hopefully I'll have nice healthy soil. Also at that point it should be easier, the roots should have rotted away as well, so it should be easier just to pull out those stumps before I plant anything back into this. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so at the beginning of the season I did actually joke that I'm going to have nothing but sunflowers, and that's basically been what it is. This is pretty much all I've had from the garden. This stuff is still looking pretty sad. but my sunflowers did me well. I had so many sunflowers. I'm not going to plant a single sunflower next year. I'm so sick of them. I'm so sick of them. I planted 6 different types though, so I'm going to run through them quickly for you. The first type I did was this small yellow one. These were the Valentine Sunflowers, and these were actually quite cute. They came on a decent thickness of stem, and the flowers themselves were quite small. They were not your usual huge big showy sunflower, but they were nice to kind of add into things. I'm saying that like I had anything to add them into. If I'd had things to add them into, they would have made a nice little summery pop. By themselves, they were a bit bleh. They kind of have this buttery yellow colour, which is quite nice. It's falling apart in my hands. So they were nice to add, but they did have the problem that they like to put up lots of buds really close to each other on the same head, and that made it quite hard for cutting. You were either taking one flower and losing the buds, or you were waiting for the buds to come out and losing the big flower, and it was just kind of awkward for when you came to cut them, knowing when to cut them. So that was my Valentine. Nice stem width, nice, God, there's so many bugs. Yeah, nice stem width, but a little not so showy and hard to cut because I couldn't decide when to cut them. That was not 25 minutes. No way was that 25 minutes. So, I might have to continue this another day because this rain is supposed to last for the rest of today. Rubbish. I will get the garden cleared out at some point. But I guess the birds get to keep the sunflowers for an extra week. Or a few days. Typhoon season. I hate it. I hate it. It's hot and it's sticky and it's wet and I can never get in my garden. Nightmare. At least I didn't cycle today. I am having to wait for my husband to come pick me up. Okay, let's try that again. That typhoon lasted almost the entire week and made it onto the international news. So my garden has once again taken a pounding. My sunflower are well gone, so we'll get round to cutting them down. But again, my amaranth, it's just not having a good time, this amaranth. All falling down again, squished my cosmos again. Bits of it are broken in here. Also, I swear that typhoons know when the weekend's coming and they always hit on a weekend, which means that it's now Monday. It's the first day I've been able to get down, and that means I have Squirrel with me as well. So yes, my top's on backwards again, and I'm going to have to try and get this done while she's asleep on my back, which is not going to be easy. So let's get to it and get these sunflower cut down, and then I'll deal with that. Okay, that's all my Valentine cut down. I'm just going to leave the stalks here as a mulch for the bugs to make homes in over the winter time, and it's just a lot easier than digging them all up and upsetting all of that soil again. Okay. So behind my Valentine I had my evening sunflowers. These actually weren't too bad. I quite like these. You can see, I mean, all the flowers are gone, but they were a much better thickness of stem on them. You got 2 or 3 heads, but they tended to come at the same time, or it was easy enough to cut off the first stem and take it and then wait for the other 2 to come. These were a really nice colour. I like these quite a lot. But they're not the F1 series, so they did drop a lot of pollen. They were taller than the Valentine, but not as tall as the Copper Queen, so they weren't too bad. These were quite a nice one to have. Yeah. But they're all gone now, so time to cut them back. And although these ones had usable stems this way, also a nice stem length on them, you can see down at the bottom, if I show you, their stalk is much, much thicker. I mean, that's almost the same size as my wrist. so I might have a bit more work to try and chop these guys down. Oh, my secateurs can't even get around it. They did have really nice stems on them, with a good stem length. I'm removing the guide netting as I go, the support netting, just to make it easier for me, because now I can actually stand in this row. My rows are so thin that I'm having difficulty walking through them, and my dahlia is starting to spill over into this row, so this just makes it easier. For me, gives me a bit more room. Oh my goodness, look at this guy. Look how thick that stalk is. Don't wake up, squirrel. Yeah. Wow. That is a beast. I mean, literally, almost the same thickness as my arm. Beast. Keep going. Like extreme gardening. 10 kilos on your back. But you've got to be really gentle so it doesn't wake up. I'm gonna break her neck. Squirrel. Okay, so next we're on to Velvet Queens. These ones were quite tall, and the flowers weren't really as big and impressive as I thought they were. I got a few nice ones off it, but mostly they were this kind of smaller type of sunflower. And also, off one stem, it kind of put off little stems with lots and lots of buds on, which made it really hard to cut, and it made it hard to know when to cut. You were either getting one flower on a very short stem, or you were getting lots of buds and not so many flowers out at the same time. And again, this wasn't F1 Pro Cut series, so these dropped a lot of pollen. So I'm not going to be growing these again. Look at her wee face. Squirrel, you okay? I'm not going to be growing these ones again, so they can all come down. You can see when these stalks dry out, they're all hollow inside, which is great for bees and bugs and stuff over the winter time, which is why I'm going to leave them down. Give the bugs a little bit of respite. Okay, so these next ones are my plum. I had some plum here and then I put some plum in at the end, and I actually got more of the ones at the end because these were much shorter than the Evening Sun and the Copper Queen on each side, so these ones actually got quite shaded out, so they didn't do as well. So you've just got to be careful when you're planting sunflowers the way that I did, that you actually check the heights and see if you're putting them in this tightly which ones are going to grow the tallest, because there was a huge difference between these ones and those ones. I've spoken about the plum ones before. I thought they were going to be a kind of darker colour, and they weren't. They just kind of looked a bit wishy-washy. I didn't love them as much as I thought I would. The colour was definitely not as strong as I thought it would be. They did put up nice flowers on good stems though, which I guess works in their favour. Favour. And these were the Pro Cut, so these ones didn't drop pollen, which was nice. I spent so much time cleaning up pollen. Okay, next we're on to the giants. These are my copper queen. I had no idea these were going to grow this tall. I mean, that's got to be almost 9 foot, maybe. These put out the biggest flowers on them. They were nice flowers, I'll give them that, but they were huge, like you imagine the big, huge sunflowers. The colour on them was really nice. They're kind of a dark orangey colour. But they, again, here, I'll show you this one. You've got a lot of stems very close together. So it's hard again to know when to cut these. You're going to end up with flowers or buds, or flowers on very short stems. So it was hard to know when to harvest these. It was really hard for me to harvest these. You'll see in some of the videos I was actually having to jump and grab them and pull them down. Short people beware, I'm 5'2", and this was hard work. And again, these ones weren't the Pro Cut series, so these dropped a lot of pollen as well. So definitely a no for me next year. The pinching of these really worked, but they did spread out a lot more than the other ones, and these ones are the ones that ended up putting out the big side shoots that were shading out the rest of my garden more than the height of them was. So if you're going to pinch these, just know that you have to give them quite a lot of space to spread out. A beautiful sunflower to have at the back of your garden, I would really recommend it for that, but for cutting, not so great, because you just end up, the flowers are really heavy as well, so you need to have the stronger stem, which means you have to take a lot of the buds with it. So this was the copper queen. Not going to be growing that one again. I'm too short for that. I must say though, for the height of all of my sunflowers, they all stood up really well to the typhoon. These guys weren't bothered at all by the really strong winds. Break time. Want it? I feel like my peely wally skin is getting sunburnt. What did I do with my secateurs? Oh. Okay, next I've got my common sunflower. Now, these were so underwhelming, I don't really remember what they looked like. I think they were just like your standard yellow sunflower. And again, these were shorter than the others, so you can see these have already started to die back. You could if there wasn't a baby carrier in the way. These have already started to die back and are all dried out already, because they were just shaded out by everything. Makes them easy to cut though. We're almost there. I'm on my last one, which is my teddy bears. These were the ones that I put in last. So they came a little bit after everyone else, and I really liked these ones. They were a really nice stem size, like thickness, a nice stem length. You got a couple of flowers that tended to all come at the same time, so they were nice for cutting. They didn't drop pollen, and they were just really cute. I really liked them, and they looked nice in arrangements or just a big bowl by themselves. So if I was going to grow any of them again, it would be this one, the teddy bear, but I'm not, because I hate sunflower. We're done! Ugh. The masses of samba. Yeah. sun's right in my eyes here. Okay, so everything is cut down with the exception of these three, which were my copper queen, because they're massive and my secateurs won't get through them. And you can see they dry with nice little hollow stems here, so bugs will like that over the winter. Here's a little bug. No, we don't play with the sharp things. I know, terrible, mummy. Here, play with this one. Want this one? No. So now I'm just going to take all the stems, which I put in a big pile here, and lay them all out right across so that they'll act more like a mulch. Mama. Yes, baby. Not helping. This one, not helping. Okay, so that is all of my stalks laid out, and it's going to be a lovely little bug hotel for the winter time. Hopefully it'll suppress some of the weeds as well, but also try and add something back to the soil. The soil was not good when I got it. Obviously people have been coming and using it as the allotment, but not really paying much attention to the soil nutrition and the makeup, and so I just feel like I want to try and leave it a bit better than I got it. So I'm going to leave it like that. Now this only makes sense because I'm not replanting in here. Obviously on such a small allotment, you would think right now I should be putting in my spring bulbs and things. What are you doing? I should be putting in my spring bulbs and things, and that would be ideal. And I'm actually having to do that at home in big planters because the timing that I got this allotment was a bit strange. Usually you get them for 4 years, but I'd got one that somebody had given up early, and so we have to reapply for our allotments in February, which means come February I have to have this entire garden cleared out in case I don't get the allotment again. It's a first come first serve basis, so it will again be 8 o'clock in the morning sitting on the phone trying to make sure that I get this plot again. Now I really like this plot because I'm right at the back. I don't have to worry about my tall flowers overshadowing anybody else's, so I'm hoping I get this plot again. But in case I don't, I have to have the whole thing cleared out by February. So that means that I can leave this like this for this year, but come next year, I would just clear this out and be putting my spring bulbs into this. I'm not doing very well at growing flowers, but I'm pretty good at growing babies. Hi, snotty babies. Yeah, so that's that done. And it seems really bad to say, my sunflower gave me pretty much the only flower that I've had from this garden this year, and you should think that I would be grateful for that. I'm not. I've come to the conclusion that I don't like sunflower. They're easy to grow, they did me well, I got lots of different varieties, which was fun, but when I actually cut them and took them home, they have a very, very short vase life. They dropped quickly, they drop a lot of pollen. They don't smell particularly nice. They don't have a very nice scent when they're cut. Now, I'm in a small house and I was putting them in my kind of hallway, the genkan area in my house. The genkan's a Japanese hallway, which is a small confined space. And so the fact that they didn't have a nice scent was quite obvious as soon as you walked in the door. And then when you were drying them, it got worse. They're quite a smelly dried flower. Once they're dry, they're fine, but during the drying process, they're not very nice. And also they don't dry particularly pretty. I'm keeping mine to make a kind of creepy Halloween-y type wreath, so I like that they've kind of dried a bit creepily, but for most people that's not what they're looking for in their dried flowers. So I am not going to be putting in any sunflower next year, and possibly any other years either. Instead, I have decided, hello, I'm going to replace them with Rudbeckia. I have ordered all my seeds. I've made my garden plan for next year. I got them all from Chiltern Seeds, which is a very good, reputable seed distributor in the UK. The only problem is they don't have pictures on the packets. So I actually had to print out little pictures and stick them on the back. So I'm going to replace my sunflowers with Rudbeckia, which have a similar look to what I was hoping for my sunflowers. They have similar colours. They come at a similar time. But I'm hoping that they might smell better, and they're nowhere near as tall. These ones only grow up to about 60 centimetres, so they're not going to shade out the rest of the garden. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the fact that the baby has found the sharp things again. Give them back. Yeah, so no sunflower next year. Instead, we're going to have Rudbeckia and hope that they look similar, they give me the same summery vibe, but with a lot less stress and a lot less pollen, hopefully. That's my plan. So that's me done for today. This is down. I'm going to take this baby home and clean it because it's crawled around in the flowers. Thanks for checking in with me. Thank you to everyone that sent me a message checking that we were okay during the typhoon. Feel the love. We were fine, just a bit wet. The garden, not so much, but that's the video for next week, is yet again Peggy trying to rescue the garden after a typhoon. Yay! So thanks for watching this long. If you like what you see, then please hit the subscribe button below. I'm going to be starting to plan out my garden for next year, show you what I'm planning, show you what seeds I've got, and getting some of them started, like I say, at home instead of in the allotment, because I've got to get this all cleared out. So thanks for checking out the channel, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Squirrel, say bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Good girl.